How to install a kitchen sink the easiest way. This is not very complicated. I'm gonna show you how to install this and why I do it. And the fact is, if you learn to do this, this can possibly save you money. If you're a homeowner and you need to replace the piping under your sink, this is a video you need to watch. And if you hadn't done it yet, please subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on anything. Now we're gonna start with the kitchen sink. Now, this is not a real kitchen sink. It's actually just a trainer that we have here. I don't even have the nuts for the bottom of it, but literally what you do, you put putty around down in here, or you'll have a plastic plate on the bottom to set it on, and check the directions, see if it requires putty or silicone. But what I would do is I would put putty around here. I would pack this full of putty anywhere down in there. That way, whenever you put it down in here and you tighten it up, you want it to pull down and you want to make sure you don't get any water leaks. I want to show you one other thing too. While you have it up here, what you may do, if you can put the hose connections on, go ahead and put them on now. That way, if you don't have a basin wrench to get up under the backside, you can still tighten these nuts on your water lines and not have any problem. You're probably gonna need a basin wrench, because if not, the securing nut, the one that tightens this faucet down, you're gonna have a really hard time getting to it without one. And a basin wrench is a tool that a plumber uses that really does come in handy. Now here's actually the basin wrench that I use. I like it because it's got a light on it. It helps me get up into the tight places, and also you press a little button here. It's extendable to get up to the areas that you need to reach. Now the way that a basin wrench works is you're basically getting on the nut and turning it like that. This spring action will help turn it tight. So you want to make sure when you get on that nut, you get on it good, turn it, tighten it up, and everything will be great. So anyway, we're not going to go all into that today, but when you tighten up the nuts on the bottom of this, you want to make sure you secure it, get it firm. That way, you're not going to have any problems at all. Now this is the flexible water line. So you're going to hook one end up to the angle stop and the other end up to the faucet, and you'll know which one because it's only going to fit a certain way. Once you get these secured, you want to snug them up, do not over tighten them, and then with the faucet turned off, you're going to turn the angle stop on just to check to see if you have any leaks underneath. Then you're going to turn it back off, because before you turn the water on, you're going to want to take off your aerator, let your water flow to make sure that there's not any garbage or trash, anything in here that can mess up the cartridge or the aerators and clog it up. But I also wait till the end to do these. That way I've got room to work on the disposal, the basket strainer, everything else that we're gonna do in there. So let's jump down there and do this. Okay, so I've got the disposal trim here, and depending on where my drain came out would depend on where I want my garbage disposal at. You gotta look at it and figure it out. That part's not really easy to explain to people, but what I try to do, preferably the plumber put it in the middle somewhere, I prefer to have the garbage disposal turn out towards the other sink. That way, I can put my P-trap under the outlet of the garbage disposal and put my continuous waste on that side. We'll get more into that, but I'm gonna go ahead right now, assume that my drain is over here, and then what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put my garbage disposal over here on the left side. So getting this ready, what I'm actually doing is I'm pulling my screws all the way down. Now this is your garbage disposal mount. If you install these things right, there's really no problem with them leaking, and it makes it really easy to secure your garbage disposal to your sink. So what I do is I pull my screws all the way down. That way it gives me as much room as I need, because I've got a metal ring down here that I'm gonna need to unclamp and put back in, then secure it before I hang my garbage disposal. So I'm gonna take the screwdriver and pop this ring off. And I wanna hold on to it because I've got to put it back together like that. Then I've got my chrome drain, my fiber washer there, and I've got everything else I need for underneath. Now the way this goes together, you put putty around this ring, you drop it down in the sink, put your fiber washer here, everything comes up, you clip your ring on, then you tighten it up, and this pulls it back down and creates a leverage that pushes it down and holds it tight. So first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and put the putty on. Now, it doesn't take a ton of putty here, but you're gonna end up putting this on your garbage disposal and on your basket strainer. You don't want either one of them to leak. Now, the way I was taught, you actually take your putty and roll it out where it makes a long snake. You want to try not to have a bunch of narrow bands like that. And then you're going to take it and wrap it all the way around the drain. Now what I do, if I did let it get narrow, I kind of squeeze it together to thicken it up. So then I've got a nice steady bead of putty all the way around. And then I take my thumb and work it down in there. And all I'm trying to do is make a good, nice edge that whenever I set it down in this sink and snug it down, it'll push this extra putty out and I'll get a good watertight seal and I won't ever have to worry about it leaking. One other trick, and this is something that just comes from years of doing this, always turn your information to where it can be read by the customer. Put everything in nice, neat, and straight. Or if you're the homeowner, this is something that would irritate me at home. If I walked up to my sink and it was turned crooked all the time, that would just bug the heck out of me. So what I'm gonna do, put that right in there right where I want it, line it up nice and straight, then I get my other pieces ready to go on the bottom side. And on the bottom side, I'm literally gonna slide this up and then take my metal ring and get it situated around the back side. And that's all there is to it. And what I did is, I pulled it up on the back side, and then while pushing down from the top, I brought my fingers around forward to push it up towards the top. So as you can see now, I've got my fiber gasket up here. I can line this up however I want. I normally put the nut over to the side where the garbage disposal coming in is not at. Now I snug everything up by hand, just to get everything up where I can work it, get it lined up, and then get a screwdriver in here, and then come up top and double check just to make sure I've got it lined up where I want everything. Now at this point, it's just tightening it up. And one thing I like to do is I like to feel my screws and see, did I draw them in equally? I don't want one side super tight and super pulled down and the other two kind of loose. And that feels really good. Now I'm just going to come back up top, kind of peel my putty out and see how everything looks. And it looks pretty daggum good. Now while I'm here, I'll go ahead and take my screwdriver just to try to pull any extra putty out that I can right now. Just because I don't want to leave a mess in here. That actually came out really good. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the basket strainer. Again, I'm using a putty, just like I did before. Lay it down around there, and then just kind of go through and pack it in. Now when I've got a gap like that, what I'll do is I'll take my thumbs and just kind of knead it over to it. That way it pushes it right up there to it and together. Now if there were any markings on it, I would want to make sure that it's lined up straight. So now I'm going to take the rubber washer and the nut, put my hand up here just to make sure I keep everything centered, and now I'm going to tighten it up. Now you don't want to use too much putty on that, because if you do, as you tighten it up, the putty's going to push out underneath. What's going to happen is it's going to try to push that rubber washer out as you tighten it up. So now we're going to get the disposal ready. If I was hooking up a dishwasher, which for the trainer I'm not, the first thing to remember is there's a plug in here. And if you don't unplug this, the first time you run your dishwasher is not going to drain, because there's going to be nowhere for the water to go. Now, the dishwasher hose will come up. You may need a dishwasher boot depending on what size it is, but you're going to put it on here, you're going to clamp it tight. It's going to drain to the inside of your garbage disposal, which is going to make it drain above the P-trap so you don't get any sewer gases or anything like that back through the garbage disposal. So that's one of the first things that I would do. And the way I do it is I normally pull the tip out of my 4-way screwdriver. That gives me a broader head here. Stick this in here, tap that with a hammer, and drive it out. Now I may not do it with this particular screwdriver because this is a ratchet, so I don't want to mess up any of the gears inside, but you want to knock out that plug while it's down on the ground. That way if it gets down inside there, if you need to, you can pull this rubber gasket off and get down inside there. That way, if you need to get down inside there to get that plug out or anything, that's an option. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back together, and I'm gonna show you how we hook up the electrical connections to the disposal. Now, one other thing too, when I install a disposal, I always prefer to use the 90. The reason being, and I've seen them installed where a piece of pipe goes straight across to the T to connect to the other side of the sink so they both go through the same P-trap. I prefer a 90. That way, gee, I got Orbeez in here. That way, when it comes out of the disposal, your food is already going straight down towards the drain. Any washer and gravity will help wash that out. What I don't like about the ones going out straight across, any food particles that the water don't wash down could stick in there, harden up, and cause your sink to clog up. So what we do, we take the washer, stick it up inside here, put your retainer on there, and I always start one screw. And normally, I won't do this on somebody's sink. I will normally lay it down in the floor, put down a piece of cardboard, maybe cut open the box that it came in, maybe even just the bottom of the box. But I want to put it somewhere where it's not going to scratch up their sink. This is a trainer, so I'm not really worried about it. I just want to keep it up high here so I can show y'all what I'm doing. And once you get your screws in, I like squaring it up, get everything nice and neat, and then go ahead and just tighten it up. All right, so now back to the electrical. Now if you lay this down, you see you've got a hole on the bottom. This is your electrical inlet. I'm gonna lay it over here so it won't turn. You loosen that screw and pull this little plate off, set it aside. The other thing to do is make sure that your ground screw is loose. Now what I have here is a power cord kit by InSinkErator, and these InSinkErator disposals are what we're installing today. What I like about it, it's got a retainer clip, it's got your wire nuts, and it's got your electrical cord with it. So we're gonna go ahead and open this up. Sometimes easier said than done. There's the directions. Now the first thing I want to do is get my connector installed. So I'm going to take my cord, pull my wire nuts off, set them aside, get all the tape off of it. So I like to take my cord, straighten it out, put my connector on there, and I know that the threads are going to go in here. You've got another one here you may need, you may not. The InSinkErator disposals are made so you can literally just screw it right in there and tighten it up. I've got my screws loose now. So what I can do is I can feed this in and pull it around to where I want it. So I'm gonna pull the wires for the disposal out and then stick my finger in here and kind of guide these wires over. Now I'm gonna lay this back up out of the way. Well, the first things I'm gonna do is hook up my ground cord. Now the ground's got a special place for it, so you want to make sure that you take that screw out, secure it, and put it right back in. Then once you get those done, all you've got to do is hook up the power. Then tuck them in nice and neat. Grab your cover plate, slide it right back into position, and it's got these little titties around the side to hold it in position, and then one screw to lock it down. So now that you got this, straighten up your power cord, that way you're not pushing it at a weird angle, and tighten up your screws on your retainer and you're good. Now the good thing about doing this and making sure you do it right every time is that if you're ever getting in and out of the cabinet or getting things in and out, you don't want to jerk this cable up against the edge and cut the wire and get somebody electrocuted or shocked or anything. So this is a great thing to have in there, and make sure you lock it down tight. And one little trick while we're here. On the bottom of a disposal, you've actually got a reset button. If you ever go to turn your disposal on and it does not make any noise, meaning there's no power, there's not anything like that, or it feels like it, reach under here and see if this is sticking out. Because when it drops out, something has caused it to kick, that little reset button may save you from a plumbing call. You've also got another Allen head right here in the center, and most garbage disposals come with a tool to actually stick in here to rotate the blades. What that does is that rotation will cause anything in there to unjam. So whenever you first stick it in, it may not move. You may need to tap it with a hammer or something to loosen it up. Don't hit it hard, just barely tap it. But once you loosen it up, look down inside and see what caused it to jam. Those two little tricks right there can save you a lot of money. All right, so now we're gonna go right down here. You got some little flanges here that you wanna line up. This is gonna twist and lock to go into position. So literally what you do, get it in position, slide it up in, make sure you've got everything lined up, and then turn it. Now, at this point, I double check to make sure all three of them are above the ring. That way, whenever I turn it and lock it, I know one side's not out, all three of them are up. You can literally, in the beginning, turn it by hand, get it about where you want it. At this point, I turn the garbage disposal to kind of line it up. Now, you may be able to turn it later, but right now, you just kind of want to get it, like I said earlier, I want it over towards this side, so I'm gonna get that together and then basically lock it in position. Now, you can do that two different ways. Once you've got it where you want it, what you want to do is put a little leverage here to turn it and lock it, so that's locked in position. Another thing you can do is just take a small pair of channel locks, grab it and pull it, and it's locked in. So we know we're good. Now, you can still twist this if you really try. So if it's not lined up exactly where you want it, it's okay, you'll be able to get it there in a little bit. So now we're gonna go ahead and open up the piping. And what I've got is I've got a flange tail piece here. I've got a T. Now, what they give you this for is in case you want to try hooking up two sinks. If you had one here, put a T here, put this on the other side, now you come down and 90 it over and tie it together. But we've got a garbage disposal on this one, and we want the T on that side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put that together first. So I'm gonna slide this nut up, and I'm gonna take my beveled washer and put it on there. Slide that up. Now, you see you've got a baffle in here, and what this does, this will make sure your food waste goes down this side and the water comes in here and helps wash it down. That's why I said I really like the T over on this side. You put it in, line it up. Now at this point here, I'm gonna go ahead and point it over towards this sink. You wanna make sure you don't forget the insert piece that goes on the bottom of the basket strainer. So it goes right in the end there of your flanged piece. I'm gonna bring this up, take it in there and tighten it up. So what I do at this point, I know that I'm gonna end up putting my branch on here. But the first thing I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and put my P-trap in. So I'm gonna look at where my trap adapter is, look at where the line is that I'm going back into, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that in position, because what that's gonna do, it's gonna let me know if I need to rotate it around, if I need to turn it one direction or the other. Now, if I need to turn it, I prefer to turn it towards the back, that way I get the piping as far back as possible. Now, this is still rotatable, I can still turn it and line it up on this, but we're gonna assume that trap is right there in about the middle. I'm gonna go ahead and slide my washers on, get my P-trap right where I want it. We're gonna assume that line is right in the middle, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my beveled washer on, get my P-trap on, put it right where I want it. That way now, literally, that would be secure. Because if I've got my trap adapter in the back, that's gonna secure that and that's not gonna move. So I'm gonna leave that right where it is. So then at that point, I'm literally gonna line this up. I wanna turn this piece straight at this one. I'm gonna line it up where it'll go, mark it, and go ahead and cut it. Now again, this is probably not something I would do in a customer's house. I would probably go out to the van and cut it. But to make this look good, this is what we're doing. So now I'm gonna get my bevel washer on it. Make sure I got all the burrs out of it. I'm gonna rotate it around and stick it in snug it up, because now I want to do the same thing here. I want to mark this one and go ahead and get it cut. Always make sure you clean all the burrs off the end, that way you don't have anything in there that can clog up. And I'll put this one back in and rotate that around. So I know I'm good there. So I've got my nut for the top. Now I've got my nut for the bottom. So what I would do at this point, slide this back out. Go ahead and put all this together. Don't forget this little piece. So really everything's done now. All you've got to do now is hook up your water lines. You've got your drain lines hooked up. Remember, the water lines, they just connect up to the bottom of the faucet. There's not a lot to that. Now this one here, as you see, the other end will connect to the angle stop. What I recommend is pulling the aerator, turning the valves on, opening this up to let water continuously run and flush through the sink. Now one thing that I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the stopper in my disposal and in my basket strainer, just to make sure that the water's held in there. Then I can put paper towels down here or anything like that. Now when I drain this, I can check this for leaks and I won't get the customer's cabinet wet, or your cabinet if you're doing this yourself. So how to plumb a kitchen sink the easiest way? This is really it. As you saw, there wasn't anything too complicated, anything too difficult. This is something that any plumber or any homeowner should be able to do very easily. If you're a plumber and you do this different, let me know. Are you one of the plumbers that runs this straight out into the T over here? I understand that gives you a little bit more elevation, but I don't like the fact of the horizontal holding the solids in it. So that's why I do it the way I do. If you do something different, let me know. If you're a homeowner and you've done this yourself, let me know how it turned out for you. Anyway, I hope you got something good out of this today. I'll see you in the next video if you don't get flushed.